إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. الإمام ابن القيم said about it, and he said it is the best practice for spiritual revival. Sa'id ibn Musayyib said it's not only among the ranks of worship like prayer and fasting, it is a very important thing to practice that helps a Muslim and prevents him from slipping into haram. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz said it is the best practice of worship ever and the most effective one. When asked about how Abi Dharr, the companion of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when asked his wife after his death, what is the most practice he used to do? She said, during the daytime, he would pick a place in the house and practice that type of behavior. When you look, as an example, of a sick person who requires intensive care, he is rushed into the hospital between life and death. A person who lost a lot of blood, he cannot breathe, his heart is failing, and immediately as he goes to the intensive care unit in the hospital, they start connecting him with all types of devices. One of them to pump blood into his system, the other one is certain nourishment into his veins, the third one perhaps oxygen to help him breathe, the fourth one a heart monitor to pick up the heartbeats, the fifth one all types of wires and hoses connected to that person who is suffering between life and death. With time and with proper medical help and with the mercy of Allah, that person becomes better and better, and he starts to pick up his awareness and senses beyond any doubt, and with the help of Allah Almighty first. Then what he's been connected with, he was able to become better. What if you disconnect him? What if you remove the wires? What if you remove the tubes? What if you remove all of the supervision around him? Definitely that person would deteriorate and go back and slip to his life-threatening condition. This is how you and I, in our relationship with Allah, continuous support from Allah Almighty in every function in our life. In every aspect, there is a continuous support, unseen. Without the support of Allah, not a single function or cell in your system can survive. Without the support and the commands of Allah for your parts of your body to function in a certain manner, you cannot even live. That continuous support, when it goes, you cannot pick it up and connect it again. Allah Almighty says, مَا يَفْتَحُ اللَّهُ لِلنَّاسِ بِرَحْمَةٍ فَلَا مُمْسِكَ لَهَا. Whatever Allah gives mercy to people, no one can stop it. And whatever Allah deprives of mercy, no one can reconnect it. Every single mercy, every single blessing, every single support is around you, yet you cannot see it. It's from Allah Almighty. Every function in you is receiving information every second to act in a certain way, to function in a certain way, to let yourselves perform in a certain way. Otherwise, you are disconnected and you will die. Every single moment. Another example. You meet a person. That person you don't know. You greet him like every single person as a stranger you meet. Later on, you start receiving important information about that person. You hear information about that person, his abilities, his degree, where he works, his behavior, his relationship with people, his ability to gain respect among people around him. A question comes to you and I. When you meet him again, will you greet him the same way you met him the first time, or there will be a different greeting from yourself? Likewise, in our relationship with Allah Almighty, we need to know Allah Almighty to better yet increase our accuracy in our relationship with Allah and increase our senses, and we are able to see the support of Allah Almighty in our own lives. Musa alayhi salam, the Prophet Moses, he asked Allah Almighty, he said, "Oh Allah, who among your worshipers fears you the most?" Allah Almighty said to him, "The ones who know me more, they are the ones who fear me more." أقول ما تسمعون وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان يوم الدين. Ubayd ibn Umayr, when he visited the wife of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Aisha, after his death of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said to Aisha, "Tell me among the amazing things that you have seen in the Prophet Muhammad." She wept. Then she said to him, "He was totally amazing in every aspect in his life." One night he came to me and he said to me, "Aisha, leave me alone tonight. I would like to worship Allah Almighty." So he went and performed wudu, and then he started to pray, and then he started to cry, and his tears made his beard wet, and as he performed sujood, his place on the ground where he performed sujood became also wet of his tears. And after his prayers, he lied on his side for Fajr prayer to come. Then Bilal came to him asking for permission to call for the adhan of Fajr. Bilal saw the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, "O Prophet of Allah, what makes you cry? And Allah Almighty has forgiven all of your sins in the past and in the future." Then the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "A verse from the Quran was revealed to me tonight. Behold, anyone who reads it and he does not respond to it." And that verse, my dear brothers and sisters, إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. Indeed, in the creation of the heavens and earth, and in the alternation of night and day, are signs for those of understanding. وَيْلٌ لِمَنْ قَرَأَهَا وَلَمْ يَتَفَكَّرْ بِهَا. Behold and woe, the Prophet Muhammad said, to those who read this verse and they do not give it a thought. Behold to those who read the verse and they do not give it a thought. Thought, pondering, understanding. This is the lost art that many Muslims have lost nowadays. Their ability to see not only the facts, but the surrounding facts around that. Their ability to analyze and reflect on the verses of the Quran, to reflect in their own lives. Like in the example I've given you of a sick person. You saw the sick person, but you forgot about what was around him from wires and connections and attentions that helped him revive, and also with the support of Allah Almighty. You see yourself moving and you forget the commands of Allah for every single part of your body to perform as it was created. You see yourself living in a family, in a home, and you forget all the aspects of Allah, of support and security, and the wealth that Allah gives you, and the sustenance of Allah Almighty. This is the lost art of embracing the verses of the Quran, analyzing them, and applying them, and seeing the unseen world around you and in your action. So when the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, "Behold, to those who read it and do not give it a thought," this means events pass by, you should reflect. Rewind the event, see it again. Don't look at the main character. See what surrounds that character from the support of the unseen world. This is what kept Muslims throughout the centuries fearful of Allah. That's what kept Muslims in the relationship of the Quran. It's a different thing when they read the Quran. There is a communication, there is interaction. That's what kept Muslims when they think about the life of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. They don't read it for the images they see. They see the surrounding support of Allah Almighty. Abu Sulaiman al-Darani, he says, whenever I leave my home, everything my eye sees, I would relate it to a blessing that Allah had given it to me. This is a practice. When Darda, the wife of Abu Darda, the companion of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when asked what is the best worship that Abu Darda had done, she said, pondering, observation, and relating to things that are around him. Around you, in your life, in the universe, in the sky, in the beings that are around you, in yourself. Muhammad ibn Ka'b al-Qardi said, I would rather spend the night reading 2 surahs of the Quran, إِذَا زُلْزِلَتْ and Al-Qari'ah, and nothing more than that, and I keep on repeating them, and I think, and I observe, and I ponder in their meanings. It's more loved to me than to read the whole Quran throughout the night without even understanding a single verse of the Quran. Dr. Mustafa Sibai, rahimahullah, he said, visit a court one day and see how criminals are treated, and thank Allah for your good behavior. Visit a hospital once a month, so you know the blessings of Allah upon your health and your ability. Go to a park once a week and see the blessings and the creatures of Allah and the magnificent creation of Allah. Go to a library once a day and read a book. Then you will know how Allah Almighty has given you a brain and a mind and your ability to read and learn. Think of your Creator every moment, so you see His blessings on you. The last word, I finish this khutbah, is a word said by Imam Ibn al-Qayyim. He said, it is enough to know, the least, when you think about yourself, that every breath you took is with the help of Allah Almighty. 24,000 breaths that you take during the day and the night. This way, it requires that you thank Allah Almighty the least 24,000 times a day. And for every blessing, it requires that you thank Allah Almighty. I ask Allah Almighty what I've said is something that will reflect among me and you. And I ask Allah Almighty that these few principles that we've discussed today, we take it with us and we see our lives in a different vision, different angle, from a different spectrum, to see what is around you throughout these years, the support that you have, the help that you have on a continuous basis from Allah Almighty, to give us the vision and to evaluate and to thank Allah Almighty continuously throughout the day. Allahumma ighfir lil-mu'minina wal-muslimina wal-muslimat al-ahya'